Welcome to another edition of Self-Defense Across America. We're going to start in Clewiston, Florida, where we have an adult male victim who was unharmed and three suspects, two of which are between the ages of 12 and 17. They were all unharmed, and the two teenagers were arrested. On August 22nd of 2023 at approximately 4:50 a.m., a homeowner on the 1000 block of Bayberry Loop in Clewiston, Florida, observed three males on his home camera system burglarizing his vehicles. The homeowner grabbed a firearm, fired 3 to 4 shots, and went after the suspects, who fled on foot between neighboring homes. The vehicle that the suspects came in was parked at the edge of the homeowner's property. Clewiston police officers arrived and noted a white Nissan sedan parked at the edge of the property, with a male in the rear passenger seat attempting to conceal himself, and a second male on the floorboard of the vehicle. Both juvenile males identified as the vehicle as burglars and residents of Belle Glade, Florida, were taken into custody. Neither male had been shot. A perimeter was established, and a search for additional suspects with the Hendry County Sheriff's Office K-9 unit was conducted, concluding with no additional suspects located. A computer check revealed that the white Nissan sedan was reportedly stolen by the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. Both males were charged with attempted burglary and resisting an officer without violence. One of the males was charged with marijuana possession, less than 20 grams. They were transported to the Henry County Jail and ultimately released to their parents at the direction of the Department of Juvenile Justice. As portions of this incident continue to be investigated and more arrests are pending, no additional information is being released at this time. And the chief of police would like to thank the members of the sheriff's office for their assistance. So you got these two kids, and their kids basically, that were trying to steal this guy's car, and they ran off when the shots were fired and ended up just hiding in a vehicle that they came in. And maybe they were waiting for the other person that was with them, or they just thought they could hide there and wait for it to be over. And they ended up getting arrested and caught because their vehicle was parked right at the end of the guy's driveway. Note to self: when stealing a vehicle, don't park your getaway vehicle someplace where it can be seen by everybody. All right, Cincinnati, Ohio. We have our adult victim was unharmed, and our suspect, 34-year-old Rodney Dozier, he was injured and arrested. And this sounds like another home invasion type thing. A shooting investigation is underway after a man was shot late Tuesday evening. Officers heard gunshots while patrolling the Northbrook area at approximately 11:57 p.m. Shortly after, officers were dispatched to the 1000 block of Sturgeon Lane for the report of a person shot. The police found a male with a gunshot wound, later identified as Rodney Dozier. Police said a preliminary investigation revealed that Dozier was trespassing in the backyard of a nearby residence. In an attempt to investigate noises near the home, the property owner shot Dozier as he fled the scene. Police said their preliminary investigation revealed the homeowner later called 911 to report the incident. The homeowner did not know Dozier prior to the shooting. Spokesperson said Dozier was taken to a nearby hospital with non-life-threatening injuries and has been charged with criminal trespassing and menacing. The 34-year-old is being held in the Hamilton County Justice Center. This is an ongoing investigation. So this guy ends up getting shot, and it sounded like the guy shot him. It says the property owner shot Dozier as he fled the scene. So it doesn't say anything in this article if this guy, the homeowner, is going to be charged with anything. But if that statement is true, this is Ohio, if that statement is true that he shot Dozier as he fled the scene, that guy might be, especially if those were his words that got that as he fled the scene, that guy might find himself in a little bit of trouble. All right, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And we have a 35-year-old female. That's our victim. She was injured, and a 22-year-old armed robbery suspect, and that was a male. An attempted armed carjacking didn't go as intended when the female victim, a state prison correctional officer, pulled out her weapon and fought back, resulting in a shootout. The incident occurred Tuesday night around 10:30 p.m. in Philadelphia. That's when the 35-year-old woman, who was off duty at the time, was pumping gas near 22nd and Allegheny Streets. We've talked about these gas stations a lot, especially in Philadelphia. That's not somewhere you want to be. 10:30 p.m. at night, that's well past a time you want to be getting gas in certain parts of town. A man then suddenly came up behind her and put her in a bear hug. The cameras clearly show the 35-year-old putting gas in her vehicle when a male approaches her and grabs her. And then there's a physical altercation. They both pull weapons and they shoot each other. The identified 22-year-old male suspect was trying to rob and carjack her. At least 11 shots were fired during the exchange. Nearby officers patrolling the area heard the gunshots and responded to the scene. The victim was shot twice in the leg, while the 22-year-old male suspect was shot twice in the lower back and leg. Once officers arrived, the two were transported to local hospitals in stable condition. 2 semi-automatic weapons were recovered at the scene. So you hear this kind of a lot where these guys are carjacking. Well, this was off-duty correctional. This lady was off-duty correctional, but where they'll carjack like an off-duty police officer or something, and it never goes well. It always seems to end up in some kind of shootout. And that one sounds like they both got hurt and they both should be okay. All right, now we're going to go to Metairie, Louisiana, where we have an adult male who is unharmed, and our armed robbery suspect is 23-year-old Gerald Pope, and he was killed in this incident. A man who tried to rob a Metairie taxi driver at gunpoint was shot and killed when the cabbie fired his own pistol in self-defense early Monday morning. The death of Gerald Pope was classified as a justifiable homicide. The taxi driver, 43 years old, will not face criminal charges according to authorities. The shooting occurred just before 1 a.m. near the intersection of Robertson Street and Merritt Way. The driver was in his cab when a man armed with a handgun, later identified as Pope, approached and demanded money. The cab driver, who was not publicly identified, shot Pope multiple times. He was pronounced dead at the scene. The driver was presented with a life threat, with a threat to his life. So it's considered justifiable. The investigation suspect Pope is the man who robbed 2 other drivers from the same cab company. Pope matched the description of the robber in a holdup at 3 p.m. the day before the shooting, and another reported last week. No other details were immediately available about the 2 earlier robberies. When asked why the sheriff's office did not release any information about the fatal shooting on the day it occurred, the sanctity of the criminal investigation comes before anything. In an investigation like this, ensuring that the information about the shooting was not publicly available was very important. So this guy's a cab driver, which kind of goes on the same lines as the Uber drivers and the Lyft drivers and stuff like that. Taxi drivers, they might make more money because they own their own vehicles sometimes, but it's still not a job that pays enough money for the risk that you put to your life to do it. I'm not sure. I know the Uber and the Lyft drivers, I know they don't make hardly anything. They talk about, you'll see things where people say, oh, you make all this, you should do this and you should do that. They really don't end up making that much. It's just the ease of being able to decide when you want to work is what people like about it, and then it's easy. And basically, you just need a newer, like a less than 10-year-old car or something like that. But this happened at 1 a.m. and this guy was a cab driver, and I have to imagine that the cab driving, it's gotten worse since Uber has taken off. So I don't know if that's. I would still say that's a job you don't want to have. It doesn't pay enough money to risk your life, especially at 1 a.m. All right, let's go to New Haven, Connecticut. Well, we got 2 victims in this. One was a female that was unharmed, and another was 54-year-old Sheila Harris. And that was a female, and she was killed in this. And then our suspect, he was also killed, Christopher Garvin. He was 54, and it says significant other, current or former. So this is a domestic abuse, probably. A woman died days after being shot on Shelton Avenue. Police identified the woman as 54-year-old Sheila Harris. New Haven police received a report of a domestic dispute on the 200 block of Shelton Ave around 11:25 on Saturday. Officers said they spent hours with the woman to develop a safety plan for the victim. When they were dispatched to another call, the suspect eventually returned. Police said he shot the woman and her family members shot him. They just have to chill out, man. Too much going on in the city right now. That was Tariq Scurry said that. The victim, female Harris, died days later. This is a tragedy. She came to us and we did everything possible to help her, the police said in a news release. Police said the 54-year-old victim went to police headquarters Saturday to file a domestic violence threatened complaint against Christopher Garvin, with whom she had 2 adult children. They did communicate with Mr. Garvin, who declined to come in and talk with the officers. Officers attempted to locate him. Officers were with her for several hours and set up a safety plan. As for those in the neighborhood, it was another incident of gun violence. It's sad, and it's happening so much that it's not even sad anymore. That's what's sad about it. Okay, so this I would put kind of on the same thing as getting a restraining order. She went to the police and made a complaint, and then she was at her house. The police sat with her, it looks like, for a couple hours. So whoever this guy is, the baby daddy, he likely came by, saw the cops were there. And when the cops left, after he'd seen them sit out there for a couple hours, that's when he went and just decided he was going to kill her. And it's the same thing with these restraining orders. A lot of times these escalate situations so much faster than they otherwise would have. And sometimes your instinct is to contact the police, get it on record, have them do something to help you. And it sounds like they were setting up some kind of plan with her to help her. But in the meantime, they get called on as something else. And, they spent hours, according to this, with her. And, that guy's sitting out there with the cops out in front of the woman's house, and he's just getting angry and angrier with seeing the cops there and her talking to him for that long. And he knows what they're talking about. I mean, restraining orders, they're not bulletproof, and, contacting the police, they can't be with you 24/7. So if you're going to contact the police, you need to have a backup plan of what you're going to do after you do that. Like where you're going to go sleep that night, because all these things, they just escalate these situations very quickly. Okay, let's go to Madison, Alabama, where we have an adult victim who was unharmed, and our male suspect was injured. Man breaking into home was shot by homeowner. A man is in the hospital following a shooting Saturday morning in Madison after allegedly trying to break into a home. According to the Madison County Sheriff Brent Patterson, a man broke into a residence in the 6,000 block of Wall-Triana Highway, and the homeowner shot him. Don Webster with the HEMSI says the call came in around 10:30 a.m. and the male suspect was transported to the Huntsville Hospital. Detectives are interviewing witnesses at this time. Police say the suspect was shot multiple times. However, he is expected to survive. So, guy breaking into a home and gets shot by the homeowner. That's like, 101 in self-defense on that one. Okay, so let's go to Fayetteville, Texas, where we have a victim unharmed and our suspect, Brian Schmidt. He's 47 years old. He was unharmed, but he was arrested. Resident held burglar at gunpoint until law enforcement arrived. So let's see. Fayette County residents took matters into their own hands when a suspected burglar trespassed on their property early Friday morning. The Fayette County Sheriff's Office said it happened in the Fayetteville area. The 911 caller said they saw the man, later identified as 47-year-old Brian Schmidt, look around their vehicle and enter a building on their property. A resident confronted the man and ordered Schmidt to the ground at gunpoint, where he stayed until police arrived. Schmidt struggled as he was arrested, the sheriff's office said, but 2 of the residents helped detain him. He was taken to the Justice Center and is charged with burglary of a building and resisting arrest. The Sheriff's Office would like to commend the citizens involved for their quick thinking, willingness to act, and assistance of the Deputy Cedar in this case. It is truly a pleasure to work in an area where we can count on the ongoing support of the community to stand behind us, and in cases like this, even physically aid when necessary. So they didn't shoot. This guy's trespassing on their property, and they didn't shoot him, but they called police, and they held him at gunpoint until the police arrived, and the police, with a little bit of struggle, took him away, and hopefully he gets some sort of sentence out of this. And it's not just, a slap on the wrist and see you later. Because otherwise these people, they don't learn a lesson on not doing anything if they don't have any consequences. And this dude, 47 years old, he's old enough to know better. All right, well, that's all I got for you today. But I'll be back next week with more self-defense. If you like this kind of stuff, give a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you next week.